Hey y'all, this is Kim with Creative Escapades, and I am going to be doing another freeform resin sculpture, and I am using Resin Art Sangria luster pigment. This is a beautiful, beautiful color, and I'm also going to be using the Color Obsessions 007. And if you wonder why I keep holding my gloves up to the camera, I'm trying to learn how to focus with this thing. But I think I'm just making myself go cross-eyed trying to read that. I'm also going to maybe use this crushed glass. This is some stained glass that I used in a previous project, and I had some left over, so I crushed it up really fine to use in resin. I'm going to be using Pro Marine resin, which is a 1-to-1 ratio. And I am going to carefully take the lid off of this jar because I don't want to waste a single granular of this gorgeous stuff. So I want to bring it up close so you can get an idea of what it looks like. And let's get some light on here so you can see the sparkle and the shimmer. And this is a Diamond Galaxy, I believe, pigment luster that Color Art produces, and it is gorgeous. And what I want to do is I want to use some in one cup that is going to be a little more opaque, and then in the other cup I want to use it to where it's just pretty transparent on this first layer anyways. And this stuff, when you put it into your resin, it melts like butter. It is wonderful. And just stir it around and you get this delicious shimmer color, and I love all of them. I haven't met a Resin Art pigment luster that I don't like. So now I'm going to do the second cup, and this one is going to be the more transparent. And I'm going to compare the two so that you can see what I'm talking about. One is definitely a little bit darker than the other. So now we'll mix up some of the 007, and I'm doing it off screen, putting it into my cup because this stuff gets everywhere. I love it, but that little container, I don't know how it crawls out of the jar and all around the edges of the lid, but it does. But it is gorgeous. So just going to stir it up really good and then let you see. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Alright, so we're going to get this all straightened up right here. And what I have here, this is just the shrink wrap that came off of one of my canvases that I did. And underneath it I have a sheet of parchment paper, and the tray is just one of those serving trays that I got at Hobby Lobby, and it has served me well. I've used it for several different things, and it's great for this type project, especially for this first part where I'm just getting it where I want to get it to a point that the resin is not going to flow, and then I can lay it over my form and then let it cure. So I found the center of the tray, and I'm going to start with the more transparent resin and then come around the edges with the darker. And I'm not trying to get any certain type shape. I just want it to be large enough that when I go to lay it over my mold, that it will be big enough to form the type vase that I have in mind. So I'm just going to use my stir stick and move the resin out a little bit, and then add the gold to the edges, and it's already looking really pretty. You can't see the shimmer on here yet, but there is a purple tint to the Sangria, and it is beautiful. So I'm just going to straighten my paper out a little bit, or my plastic. I'm using my torch, but let me give you a little hint. This is shrink wrap. If you hit it with the heat, it's going to draw up. So I try to be careful, and I occasionally do cause a little place to shrink up, but it's okay because I'm not trying to keep a complete flat surface. As long as I don't burn a hole into the plastic, then I'm good. Now I decided to go with some clear crushed glass instead of the red. I was afraid it wouldn't show up very well. So I'm just putting the crushed glass around the edges of the gold and then pushing it into the resin. It's easier than trying to make sure that I sprinkle it right on top of the gold, because lots of times it's going to fall over into your other colors where you may not want it. And for this project, I only want it in the gold. Okay, so I've pretty much got the crushed glass where I want it. I'm going to hit it one more time with my heat gun or my torch here. Also, it's better to use a torch than it is to use a heat gun. You take a lot less chance of, you can direct your heat source. This metal cup that I have right here is actually something that I use in my hot glass in my kiln to create vases with. And what I've done is I took another sheet of plastic and I placed it over the top of my resin, then flipped it over on top of my vase molder there. And I'm taking empty cups and I'm placing them around the outer rim of the resin, and I'm using balloons, very small, to get that ruffly look and to hold that in place while it cures. And then next I'm going to put it into my curing room, and I'm going to pull these edges of the plastic all the way up and tuck a cup on top of that to hold it in place, and I'll show you that in just a second. But until then, if you have enjoyed this part of the video or this project, please click like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Ring the bell so you'll be notified when I upload future videos, especially part 2 of this one. Still blowing up balloons here to get them into place. And then just shaping it kind of with my hand and making sure that the balloon is right up against the center cup for the mold. And sometimes you do have to work with this a little bit, but you have plenty of time before it sets to a very hard state. So just as long as it's not flowing, if this is the type structure that you're wanting to create, you're okay. And here it is where I have it curing with the cup on top, where I tucked all the excess plastic up in there because I wanted the edges of the gold to turn upward, not hang down. And this is a look from underneath. So if you've enjoyed this first part,